Tonight I will be interviewing Judge Phillip Trompeter. For 30 years, Judge Trompeter has helped kids get through some of the hardest situations of abuse and neglect. He helps form court-appointed special advocates, CASA, to be the voice for the children when they don't have a voice. Tonight, Judge Trompeter is being honored by the Children's Trust to celebrate the 30th anniversary of CASA in Virginia. I will be asking 3 questions live on stage tonight. Wish me luck.
So before we kick off formally, we have a special way that we want to start tonight's program. If you all haven't become a fan of Ava Rosa, you're going to very soon. Her and her 3 questions with Ava Rosa have become kind of a special, I guess we have a little celebrity in the making here. We're excited to have her here tonight, and we're going to invite her and Judge Trompeter up right now, and we're going to do 3 questions about the history of CASA Roanoke. So please give it up for Ava Rosa and Judge Trompeter.
Hi. Okay, that works. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to ask 3 questions, Judge Trump. In 1985, you were a 32-year-old judge and went to a conference in Reno, Nevada. When you came back from that conference, you successfully helped start the court-appointed special advocates for children in Virginia. Must have been a good conference. What inspired you to do that?
First of all, Ava Rosa, thank you for the honor of being one of the recipients of your 3-question interviews. She's quite famous. This could launch something, I don't know, maybe for me too. But Ava Rosa, when I went to the conference and I was given information about this program, which started in the state of Washington, completely on the other side of the country, what inspired me was that back in the day, far, far away, before you were ever born, abused and neglected children, sadly, who were removed from their homes because of the horrendous tragedies that were happening in their families, on the average would linger in our foster care system for more than 3 years, 10 months. That was the average. In addition to that, our system back then, though chock full of very dedicated and wonderful human service people, unfortunately were confronted with a system where these children would often have multiple judges with their multiple court hearings. They would have multiple social workers who would change literally by every few months. They would often be in a situation where they had to change schools many times. And even their own homes, their foster care homes, would change as many as 5 to 10 to 15 times. And what impressed me about the Court-Appointed Special Advocate program is that I thought, wouldn't it be great in our community to be able to train these dedicated volunteers to just pull us all together and to make all that stop and to inspire us to say, you know, if you're going to take one of these children from their homes, number 1, you need to do it humanely. Number 2, you need to make sure that these children have a voice in all of our realms, whether it's in the court, whether it's with the Department of Social Services, whether it's in their school setting, whatever it may be. And in addition, to make sure that we had that one advocate who could stay with the child until that child was safely returned home quickly, and or if that was not possible, to place this child with a loving relative when possible, and when that was not possible, with a forever, permanent, hopefully adoptive home. So that's what inspired me, Ava Rosa, and I can tell you that today, which is very different from way back then, in the Roanoke Valley, the average time that an abused or neglected child who's removed by the court gets to either return home or have their plan for a permanent home has been reduced to about 13 months. So just in that alone, we have come such a long way, and just in that alone, we have been able to force the issue that for these children, they will have just one judge throughout the history of your case. They will have one CASA volunteer who will stick with them through thick and thin. They will have a school of their choice, hopefully just one foster care family who can provide that nurturing, and just so many other resources. So that's kind of a long answer, but it was a big question. I hope you'll forgive me for that long answer.
In learning about CASA volunteers, I asked my dad, are these volunteers kind of like temporary parents? He told me that being a parent is a hard job, and that sometimes kids need help from someone besides their parents. What traits do you think are the most important for parents and CASA volunteers?
Wow, and that's another excellent question. By the way, I did not get these questions in advance. But you're used to this in the past few weeks, I'm told, right, on TV. Thank goodness I'm not running for anything either. I think the most important traits for parents, as well as CASA volunteers who are, I just don't know of any of my CASAs who haven't been parents, I might add. There could be, but I've never met one that I recall. But I think the traits that are important are, number one, you have to be a good listener. Number two, you have to be unflappable, meaning you've got to stay the course and don't let people intimidate you when you know you are doing the right thing for that child. And you have to be very patient because after all of us who are parents, including your dad, is still going to be your parent for the rest of your life. And even though in our system for abuse and neglected children, we just sort of talk about children, in the big dream for CASA, you know, we want children who, when they grow up into young adults, you know, will have a family who forever they can call and depend on and be close to, because we all need help. I need tons of help all my life. These children need tons of help all their lives. So I think those are the key traits.
After 30 years of working with some of the hardest situations kids in the Roanoke Valley might face, have any of those kids bumped into you as adults and shared their stories? Could you tell us some of your favorites?
I have something in my pocket. It's a handkerchief. When I talk about two things, either my family and dearest friends or this program, what I'm really being asked to talk about are things that are very personal. And I don't do very well. In terms of being what you perhaps think I'm glib or have the capacity to address audiences with some ease. But when I have to speak about this category, this is when I might just need the handkerchief. So I'm going to leave it right here just in case. But the answer is, I get approached by these children literally every week of my life. I can't say that I have one who's more favorite than another. For example, just 13 minutes ago, one of those children hugged me at that door. How great is that? I can tell you that that it's usually not something that is a grand, exciting event necessarily, but it's one that's always very touching. For example, I remember my very first such encounter, because it was a new program, involved a little girl whose parents were expelled from their village in a country in the Middle East and were able to seek asylum here. Unfortunately, this child's mother suffered from serious mental illness, and the father didn't really know what to do and how to handle it, he being in a new country. This was a child who was so severely abused that when we finally were able to get her removed from her home, her clothes on her arms and shoulders had actually grown, her skin had grown into portions of the clothes. I know this just sounds extraordinary, and maybe some of you don't believe this, but this was a true story. Their family was always, had encounters with the police because the community in which they lived thought that the mother was so odd that the mother would take the child, usually in a rather psychotic state, in her car and sort of escape and tell her to duck down in the car. And so she had this great fear of just even getting in a car because she never knew where she was going. Well, a few years later, she had a CASA volunteer, and a few years later, thankfully, we did get her with a family member, and she, though herself suffered extreme psychological damage, she was by the by able to get an education at our local community college, and to earn money, she was working in Kroger. Anyone who knows me knows that I've always tried to be a good judge and always tried to be a good husband and a good father and a good friend, but I'm a really good cook and a person. So I go to Kroger sometimes 2 or 3 times a day or otherwise. And so this one day I was in Kroger, and there was this real nice young lady who was checking me out, and it was that girl. And she said, "Thank you for saving my life." So, that's about as far as I can go. But I can only tell you that that's what has always made this program so important to me, because when I used to swear in our new CASA volunteers, and they'll tell you, I would say, how much I would envy you volunteers, because, I'm lucky enough to be part of a system that joins together to help these children and these families. But it's you who literally touch their lives in a very, very personal way. It is the most phenomenal and beautiful and extraordinary volunteer experience that anyone could ever have. And therefore, there's very few who have, if you will, the fortitude to be able to even do this job. So I guess I would just end by saying that next to, or right up there with meeting any of these children, it's when I have CASA volunteers, some of whom no longer do it, some of whom are just new and starting, who will come up to me and just let me know how things are going. Thank you.
It has been my pleasure to meet Judge Phillip Trompeter and the CASA volunteers and staff. Without this great program and people like Judge Trompeter, there would be hundreds of kids without someone to help them get through difficult times. On behalf of those kids, I want to personally thank the Children's Trust and all of the great people of CASA for everything you do. Every kid needs a voice. Thank you for lending yours. For 3 Questions with Ava Rosa, thanks for watching. See you next time.